We are headed into what could be one of the more epic hopper seasons on record. I'm going to go through 5 hopper dropper combos that you need in your box.
Yeah, that's a big bro.
With the, at least in the West, and if you've been out anywhere that there are hoppers, it's nuts. It's going nuts out there. So what we've done is we've compiled our top 5 combos for hopper droppers. Now, this is just kind of our compilation. This doesn't mean that this fly only works with this dropper or this hopper only works with this dropper, but these are some good combinations that we've found between the nymphs and the hoppers so that you can pair them together and focus on your hopper fishing. So as I've gone out, I've been out the last week, the hoppers are going nuts out there. The fish are really focusing on them. In fact, one of our guys last week was out fishing with just hoppers and did okay, but once the hopper dropper combo went into place, it was lights out. Not only because I think the fish were eating underneath the surface, but the dropper was also probably garnering some more attention to those hoppers. So the first one is going to be a Fat Albert, which technically is not a true hopper, but it's a good hopperish style bug that is going to do well for fish that are focusing on larger terrestrials such as hoppers, but also crickets, bigger beetles, anything like that that falls into the water. These are super buggy. Now with that one, we have paired nicely a red dart from Lance Egan. Red darts are, I think, indispensable in your dropper arsenal. Red darts look buggy. We don't know exactly what they look like. Even Lance doesn't know exactly what they are, but it is a great attractor pattern. And so the reason I'm lumping these two together is because the dropper, which is a great attractor, and the dry fly, which is also a great all-around attractor, this would be if I'm going into waters where I really don't know what's going on, and there could be a variety of terrestrials and a variety of bugs under the surface. So I'm going to throw 2 ultra buggy but very kind of widespread imitators of a lot of different things. So that's our Fat Albert red dart. Next on the list is one of my all-time favorite hopper patterns, and that is the Moorish hopper. And the Moorish hopper is a pretty good imitation, so it's got a really great hopperish profile. And we've paired with this one a CDC, French CDC jig that has, I like CDC on my droppers because it imparts some flowiness. Plus you can kind of fish a little soft hackle type swing action as the bugs go down current, and you can kind of pull as you swing them up. Anything with the CDC on the collar is going to have some really good flowy movement on the dropper when you're fishing it. So that's a good combination. Number 2, again, I'm a big fan of CDC on the dropper. Coming up with number 3 option here is the Thunder Thighs, which I think is another hopper that gives a really good impression on the surface. This is paired with the Idaho Stink, which is a Paragon style dropper or nymph that Cheech has been using and tied. Once we start talking about Paragon style, those are going to be great because they sink really fast. And if you pair that with some tippet that will also help this get down, which as a side note, I would recommend if you're fishing faster water and maybe even some pocket water and you really need that dropper to drop fast, even if you're fishing a case like some of these smaller hopper patterns that may not support a lot of weight, you can size down on your tippet and that will help that dropper get down a little quicker. So if you're casting right behind a boulder with a big pocket, going down on your tippet size from say maybe 4x to 5x or 5 to even 6 will help that get down a little quicker. So you need to adjust that as you see is needed in the situation you're fishing, but that's a good strategy for that. Okay, our 4th combination, the Schroeder's Parahopper. Probably one of the most famous hoppers that's out there. It's been around for quite a while. Also very buggy. It's a more natural sort of material hopper pattern, which is good. Because of that, I wouldn't fish a very heavy or fast sinking dropper. This one has the Spanish Bullet in olive, and it's got more of a regular size bead, so it's not going to sink as quickly and pull down the flies. It can imitate a variety of different bugs. It can kind of look like a little caddis larva, but probably more than anything, a bigger Baetis nymph or even a PMD nymph. Make sure with any of these hoppers, especially the Schroeders, that you're dressing it after, at least after every fish, and then probably as you start to notice that dropper impede or change the drift of your dry fly, it's time to put some more floatant on that to give it more life. And then coming in at number 5 would be our chubby Chernobyl as the hopper part. And that's probably one of the most famous and widely used dry fly hopper attractor patterns out there. And then with that, we have a somewhat newer pattern called the Tasmanian Devil. The Tasmanian Devil is a CDC collar fly, which again, you can treat it like a soft tackle if you need to on the swing, or you can cast even downstream and kind of pop it up and give it that kind of popping motion so that it will flow and get all buggy in the water. Now, a couple of other notes when it comes to these patterns. Like I mentioned, the links below will take you to where you can get more information on these flies if you want to buy some of them. But let's talk about how you fish these patterns. So in general sense, what you're doing is you're tying your hopper on, and then your nymph, your dropper is going to be below that. You tend to want to size your tippet on the dry fly to the surroundings. So if you're fishing in some banks that have tougher grass or bushes, you may need to upsize your tippet so that you're not busting off the whole rig here. Also, if you're fishing with deeper or bigger fish and you need to upsize your tippet, be cognizant of that. Also, any of these larger bugs, if you don't have thick enough tippet, like if I were to throw this whole rig with maybe 6X tippet, it's going to have a little bit more trouble turning over the rig. So I would just make sure you're doing 3-4X tippet to the dry fly, and then you could size down the tippet on the dropper after that. So what we're typically doing here is we're doing our upstream drag or upstream cast, trying to get rid of drag, doing a mend or two as we need to. The nice thing about these bugs here is that they are pretty beefy and they'll support the weight of the dropper, as well as a quick mend if you need to, and they'll resume floating. The other thing that I like to do is fish these on a Euro rig. So you'd have your Euro rod, regular Euro leader, and then probably upsize the droppers to a bigger size. And then you're fishing the dry, your hopper, as a tag, and then your dropper as the point fly. And then what you can do is you can just let your hopper kind of pop, and that point fly will anchor the rig in the water and allow that hopper to seem like it's trying to get off the water. We have a video where Lance fishes this with caddis, and one we did this a while back on a couple different videos, so you can check those out. But that's a deadly technique for hopper dropper. Otherwise, it's just your normal leader setup with your 9'5" weight or whatever you're fishing. Cast them upstream and down. Like I said, you can cast them downstream and pop them, or swing them like you would if you have a soft tackle style dropper on the rig. Anyway, these are great options. All the information's in the link below. Give them a try, get out on the river, take advantage of this awesome hopper season, and catch some good, awesome dry fly eating, hopper eating fish.